So Jobless Reincarnation's turning point has officially arrived. There's no way you go back from pretty much being engulfed by a laser lightning blast of doom and not have it change the fundamentals of the story, especially considering even the episode title is Turning Point 1. This will be very interesting going forward. And as much as I would have been loved to be shocked that there was going to be something this big, unfortunately, there was quite a few not so hidden spoilers that were indicating, oh, that giant thing in the sky is going to cause some issues, which is why last week I said, hey, anyone who wants to be a mod on the channel, let me know. And to my surprise, there was a lot of people. I figured I'd have some familiar faces pop up, which there were, and I added quite a few specifically just because I wanted to make sure this comment section remains as spoiler-free as possible. But I do have to say thank you to everyone who did requests, because there was a lot of people there. Just, if I ever need any more, just know there will definitely be other opportunities in the future. Now, in terms of this episode, I heard a mixture of things like those little voices being like, oh, get prepared, the internet's gonna feel this way. And I would say half of the time I feel like those are warranted, and then other half of the times I don't really understand. But then based on the preview for this episode, I was real concerned. I was like, is Rudy about to rape Eris? Because based on the preview, that's what it looks like. But the context of the actual scene was a lot more tame than I was expecting, just based on the buzz around the internet and also the preview, making it look a lot worse than it was. I mean, it doesn't change the fact of how old they are, but then again, when you take into the context of the world and how young things were happening in this time period, sure, it doesn't change the fact that he does have an adult mind in a kid body, but when you look at the fundamentals of the world, nothing is truly out of the ordinary, especially for royalty. But the thing that actually struck me is he actually understood that no means no in this episode. Rudy's done a lot of really questionable things, and if you were to ask me, would I ever want to be friends with someone like Rudy? Absolutely not. I wouldn't touch Rudy with a 40-foot pole. But would I watch a story about Rudy growing and evolving? Absolutely. There's this big difference, and we've talked about it off and on throughout the reviews, and I've had plenty of conversations in the comment sections. Just because you dislike a character personally doesn't mean you can't watch that character's story. This isn't a real person. I'm not saying oh, this type of person in the world deserves to have this crazy character arc. I feel very different real world versus fiction. But watching a character like Rudy, who has a second chance at life, it's understandable why a lot of his perviness, especially placed in a position of power, would then take form into really nasty pieces of behavior. But you're already starting to see over these 8 episodes a lot of growth and progression, while yes, even if he becomes the most saint-like character, I still wouldn't, on a personal level, think what he's done in the past, is now forgiven because of his present. But watching his character arc flourish is a really engaging story. And this character isn't supposed to be a role model. This character is supposed to be Rudy, and a family of perverts and just warmongers by the looks of it. I mean, Grandpa wanted to start a war just because his newfound grandson was crying about being happy about a birthday, right? These aren't good people by modern standards, but at the same time, you're watching Jobless Reincarnation. You're trying to watch a story about what happens when someone gets a second chance at life. And the ideas of pretty much, he's going to have more than one wife. There's no way around this. The main difference between Rudy and Paul is Paul tried to fit into a mono relationship and cheated and lied to his wife. Rudy, I don't think in any way, shape, or form, besides maybe he would attempt to be mono briefly, I feel like Rudy is the type of character who will spill the beans saying, I want more than one wife. He'll get punched, he'll get kicked, and then people will just reluctantly accept it. So watching a scene that is designed to be disturbing, and you think, oh, he's going to take advantage, especially considering that Eris's father was saying, I will tie her up for you, and you're thinking you're even just as big of a scumbag as someone like Paul. And then she reacts negatively and he stops himself. That's the type of progression that you don't get to see in perfect characters in most isekai, because most isekai makes the main character a template and an insert for the viewer. You usually have the kind of basic tropes that a lot of if you were to ask what an anime fan is to the average person, they give you some pretty negative stereotypes, so they kind of fit those criteria, so it's easy enough for the viewer to say, I am this character and I can get this harem. Jobless Reincarnation, if you're relating to Rudy, you got some issues you need to work on. This is a show saying you're not supposed to relate to Rudy, you're supposed to watch a story about a very flawed character and how he navigates his newfound life. And the one thing I can safely say is that this is the first time I've ever seen an isekai say, you are in no way supposed to relate to this character, you are in no way supposed to relate to these situations. You might laugh, you might be creeped out, you might be disturbed, but this is a very bumpy road. And if you've ever been on a roller coaster, it feels nothing like watching Rudy's character progression, because he will do very disturbing things, but he also will change along the way. It's not like we're watching a story that's going to go on for 30 novels and Rudy starts out here and he ends in the same place. We've already seen a massive amount of growth, good and bad. So it's really interesting to see a story say it's not about worshipping a character, it's simply about following his character arc, and I think this episode is one of the best examples of that. I don't think anyone in their right mind is going to say that whole bedroom scene was something that was, oh, they're foaming at the mouth, they loved it. No, it's like, yeah, it's a very weird scene, but that's kind of the whole point of this show, and you're already seeing the difference between the barn with Eris versus the bedroom with Eris, and that's a pretty big leap for someone as scummy as someone like Rudy and how much he's already grown. And the fact that they even casually dropped that there's people scummier than Paul, and I'm just like, oh my god, I love my boy Paul when he's like cutting people down or his casual funny remarks, but there's a lot of scummy shit about him, and you're saying that, there's people scummier than him, and it's like, okay, I see why people are trying to overrule the authority here and try to like mix and match and make new people rulers, even if it is a 10-year-old boy named Rudy. The birthday party I thought was a really sweet addition, and how Rudy in his most brilliant way ever is like, hey, I made this statue of you, but I don't know how tails work, can I see it? And she's just so unfazed that she's like, sure. My boy literally knocks on her ass and is like rock hard, like abs of steel, and I'm like, this show has no chill with its comedy, and that scene honestly left me rolling. But the end of the episode was very interesting, because when they were building up to basically saying like, hey, we're here to destroy the cause of all this, and he's pointing at Rudy, I was like, well, that could make sense because he was reincarnated, right? So what if he actually is the source of the disturbance? That could be crazy. But then you realize it probably isn't, given the fact that they're just at the wrong location at the wrong time. But still, with 3 episodes left to go for the first core, obviously we know we have the second core in summer, but we'll have a 3-month break after the next 3 episodes. I think this was a good opportunity to make something explosive happen and then see where it could go and where we could lead off. I don't know how big of a cliffhanger it will lead off, or the kind of like the midway point we stop as we wait for more anime. But still, this was a great opportunity to really shake the foundation and do something completely different than what we've currently seen. I've loved the slice of life, I've loved the adventure of just Rudy growing accustomed to this world, but it's a good opportunity to do something a little more explosive. And I mean, in an episode that kind of jokes around about starting a war and overriding a family, to have something literally just suck in high-class members of said family, it's a good way to see where the story could truly go in the second core, and I'm really excited for more. This was a great episode. Once again, visually stunning. I mean, there's just so many times the action scenes they just suck you in, the line work and how fluid it is. It just has such a unique presentation, and an episode like this, once again, having a dance last week to then seeing just this episode with its brief moments of action to even just some of the more fluid, normal character animation when they're moving around their environment. The show's amazing, and I'm very excited for more. I mean, Rudy's character arc is definitely one of the more memorable ones I've seen in quite some time. You may not like him on a personal level, but that's never really supposed to be the point. You're just supposed to watch a character change over the course of a new life, and it's refreshing to see an author take a direction where the character is actually massively flawed, and you could argue some of the most flawed we've seen in a main character, and that's perfectly okay because we're not here to root for him. We're literally here to see where his story goes, and when he does good things, we're happy, and when he does bad things, we're like, well, that's pretty shitty, and we all just kind of agree at the same time. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. What did you think? And if you haven't read the novels, where do you think the story's going to go after that giant laser blast kind of sucked them all in? If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, show your support, and hit that subscribe button if you're happy and new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.